Okay, if you're here for this tutorial, it's because you are interested in using the Furry controller arms that I have listed on Etsy. Again, I'll just kind of quickly go over how to download and install it, but if you need more help with that, I have better dedicated videos to it. But basically, when you download the file from Etsy, you'll get a zip file. Zip files have to be unzipped for you to use them, so we're going to right-click the zip file, and we can use a software called WinRAR, but usually Windows operating system knows how to extract these. So I'm actually just going to do extract here. And you should get a folder. So this is the same thing that's in the zip file, but it's just the unzipped version. So I can delete that. So now what you should get is a folder. You won't have these things, so ignore those. You'll get these files here. This is the texture map. Basically, you don't really need to mess with any of this. So, yeah. You'll get all of these files in a folder, and you'll need to install them. So, the first thing that I want you to do, rather than installing this in your items folder, let's go ahead and move this into our live 2D models. I know this is an item, but there's a reason we're going to put it in the live 2D models, and I'll explain why. So, let's take our folder, and I'm just going to hit cut. And I'm going to paste it where my Vtuber models get installed. So I need to go to where Steam is installed. For me, that's my hard drive, Steam Library, Steam Apps, Common, VTube Studio Data, Streaming Assets. And usually you'll want to put your items just in the item folder. But for now, I actually want to put them in the Live 2D Models folder because there are some like configurations you can do to make it fit your model a little better, but you can only do that when it's loaded as a Live 2D item. So we'll put that in here. Okay, make sure that I use the correct version. I just updated the files, so we'll use this version. Alright, so now my furry controller hands are in my Live 2D models. And now let's open VTube Studio. And what this does is it's going to load these arms as if it were a VTuber model rather than an item. And by doing that, it will let us kind of have a little more control over it. So what I'm going to do is go over here to my furry gamer arms. So in here, you know, as I move my head, this is tracking it as if it was a real model. But the reason you want to do this is this can help you set more things up. For example, let me kind of show you in the settings. If you go to, I think the camera option, no, not the camera option, it must be this one, the furry gamer hands, yeah, the model settings. If you scroll down here, these are just like the default tracked things. This is just so that when you move left and right and up and down, the physics kind of happen. But the main thing I want you to add is if you are going to use a plugin that can track your button presses on your keyboard, this is probably where you would do that. I don't know exactly how you would do the input and output, but you can set an input to be like, just as an example, I'm going to use my eyebrow. So what is the brow's input? That's when I lift my eyebrows, which the camera can see here. So when my eyebrows lift up, that's what this will see. I'm just using that as an example. If you use, I think it's there. I know there's a controller plugin, and I'll get the name for it. Actually, let me get the name for that really quick. Okay, so it's called NyaruPad. Follow the NyaruPad instructions on how to use the button presses. How to track the button input. I'm not exactly sure how to do this because I've never done it myself. But you would probably make use of some of this in here. I'm not sure. But so now I have my input, which is my eyebrow, and then the output is right button controller press. So as I move my eyebrow, this button is being pressed. You can use that software to control this to your actual button presses, but that's a plugin, so that's kind of outside of the scope of this model. I just kind of wanted to show you that. Just so that you know that's an option. Now let's actually go back into continuing to customize this model. So besides that, if you, let's say you don't want to deal with the plugin, you don't want the button presses to be tracked, that's fine, you don't have to do that. But I do want to show you, let's go to the settings here. So let's click on settings. Let's go to the hotkeys, and we can do expression editor. We can create a new expression. And in here, I have a couple adjustment hotkeys, just these three. So what this does is you can, if you want the arms to be a little more forward, you can. Or let's say if maybe these forearms don't line up super great with your model, I do have hotkeys here that can kind of help you either make them shorter or make them wider, depending on the position of like your model's artwork. So this can kind of help you make it fit your artwork a little more. It's kind of hard to do without your model actually loaded in. But if you pinned this to your model and you felt like, oh, the forearms are sticking way too far down, you can move them to be short. Or let's say that they're sticking too far out, you can move them closer. And then you would save that as a hotkey. So let's just say I really want the arms to be like super long and super down. I'm gonna just do this like, I'm just gonna name it custom arm position for controller. It doesn't matter what you name it, I'm just saving it as a hotkey. And then click this little plus button and we can do our like controller arm shape or whatever. It doesn't really matter if you're naming hotkey action. We can set an expression, and now since we made those adjustments, I can set this to a key. The key that you put it to is somewhat important. You want to make sure you're using a key combination that you don't use for gameplay, that you don't use for OBS, and that you don't use for redeems on your model or anything. So you want to set it to like a really obscure key. I'll do F12. Some people have stuff set to F12, so definitely check your main model before you decide what key. Actually, I'm going to do control. I'll do left control F12. Like the likelihood of me ever actually pushing these two buttons accidentally is highly unlikely. So now when I push that, you'll notice that it goes from the default to my adjusted position. So I'm just going to leave this in here for now. But one thing to note is if you've created a hotkey in here, when this model is copied into your Live2D folder, this hotkey will be saved in your item, but it won't be shown in the list because it won't be loaded as a model, it will be loaded as an item. So let me kind of show you how that works. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to brain function, close this. Now we're going to click the item thing, not this one, not item scene, just regular items, and I can do load current model as a Live2D item. What that does is it's going to copy the arms, so it's going to copy your folder from your Live2D models, and it's just going to make a copy of it in your items folder. So I'm going to hit OK. So now I have like an item version of it here. So now if you feel like you don't need to adjust the elbows, you don't have to do this step. But now I'm going to go ahead and stop this video and move on to the next one.